Just to show that I pay attention to our speakers, I listened to Dr. Dickman very clearly, and she said to know your audience. Well, since I heard Milton, Florida, Lower Alabama, and War Eagles, this is probably not the audience where I would say go Dogs. But they are on CBS at 7 o'clock tonight if you want to watch. Okay, I'm getting my iPhone straightened out, dating myself. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to introduce our next guest speaker. Chief Newman is no stranger to AMC. He is an air mobility warrior. As a matter of fact, he was a Phoenix Raven instructor with the 421st Combat Training Squadron, and I hear his skills in the Red Man suit are really impressive. You'll have to get, maybe Sergeant Cantrell can explain the Red Man suit for the Phoenix Ravens. Chief, we're pleased to have you back at AMC, and of course, very grateful for your participation in our convention. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a warm AMC welcome to your AMC Command Chief, Chief Jamie Newman.
Hey, thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Let's see. Everybody hear me all right? Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate it. I don't know if I deserve that. We'll see. That's Dr. Dickman, that was a hard act to follow, man. I was like, man, how did I get roped into the last one? And so super appreciative of the opportunity. You know, as a young man, I never thought I'd even be on a stage. I was petrified in speech class and pretty much got a D-, and they escorted me out and said, don't come back. I was like, yeah, no problem, I'm out of here. So General Everhart, you know, Larry Williams, I appreciate him, man. He's obviously going through some tough stuff, but he's doing good, so it was good to see that. Boss, you know I love you. Miss Ash, DVs. I saw General Fogelman about had a heart attack. I was like, man, I remember him. Everybody was like, worshipped him because he was such a legend. So it's awesome to see some really cool people in the audience, some former AMC command chiefs, our leadership. And it looks like everybody came back for mine. I don't know why. So I was kind of set the stage for you. I'm going to cover a little bit about me. The general said, hey, Chief, the team doesn't really know you. He said, you left us. I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, you only did 10 years in AMC and then you left. I was like, well, y'all kicked me out. You said I had to go figure it out. You said, when you figure it out, come back. I didn't know when that was going to be. I kept trying to get back. Kept asking to come back. I could never figure it out. And finally, I talked on the phone to General Minahan. After 10 minutes in an interview to get the job, I hung up the phone. I was like, well, I better call my wife. We didn't get that job. Little did I know, boss hired me. So forever thankful. This is a dream job. As a senior enlisted, you represent all enlisted. All races, backgrounds, colors, creeds, doesn't matter who you are. I'm your chief. I'm the boss's senior enlisted, and I represent everybody in the command to the entire staff so we can work through things for you. So it's an honor and a pleasure. What I'd like to do today is share a little bit about my story so you kind of get, some of the things that I find funny. You might not find them funny, but I think they're pretty hilarious. Maybe a little therapy session too, but, no sympathy. I think I turned out okay despite some of the chaos in my life, and we'll find out why here in a minute. Which one of these buttons makes this thing go forward? There we go. Goes back. We got a little laser. Okay. So you saw the pictures up front. You probably got a good glimpse. The one in the middle that had my foot all written on. I just come off of a surgery and I couldn't walk for about 5 days. And leading up to my PT test, I really want to walk down there by y'all, but I think I learned with the boss that you can't do that. My daughter came up to me and said, Dad, what's wrong? I said, I got my PT test coming up and I'm always trying to get 100. That's like the minimum standard. In my house is 100%. And she said, well, what can I do to help you? I said, man, can you ride on my feet to run fast? I just think I just need it. And so she sat there and drew all these words of aspiration and inspiration and said, hey, Dad, good luck tomorrow. And I did. got the test done. And so through my life, I've had all these opportunities to continually start over. You know, I grew up in a pretty small town in Milford, Kansas, but we only got there after our trailer burned down to the ground when I was 3 years old. The only memory I have is my dad running in and out of the house, grabbing things, and bullets are going off, and he's trying to save family photos, anything he can get his hands on. And as a result, there's like 3 photos that exist of me today as a child from that time frame because they all got burned up. We didn't have iPhones, you know. But what a great opportunity, I think, moving to Milford, Kansas, even though a small town of 408 people and the influences there probably saved my life. See, the family I grew up in, they like to do drugs, drink, and party. I thought they were pretty good people. They always treated me right. But, man, as I grew up, I really kind of quickly realized that wasn't necessarily the stuff I wanted to be in. So moving to Milford probably was a blessing. Even though moving there, I got ran over by a car, drug 40 feet. I got lost in the town. And the story goes on and on and on. And I'm sure most of you in the audience today could probably relate to some of that, right? Where you grew up. You know, I'm a result of failure. Mostly my own. My mom never graduated high school. My dad graduated high school, joined the Army, and then 2 years later was bumped out. My grandfather, who is one of my many heroes, retired from the Army as an infantry master sergeant and fought in the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Man, I looked up to him. After his diagnosis for cancer, he asked me to shave his head. I was like, man, what's wrong with him? He's crazy. So I got a few pictures of me shaving his head, and for some reason, he took a liking to me. I don't know if it's because I was the firstborn, the only male, but man, we really connected. And every single day when I look at my hand, I can see my grandfather's hand. We're the exact same height, the exact same build, and although I was mandated to go into the Air Force, man, I sure found my way back to Army. And every day I think about him. So what I mean by product of failure is I just didn't learn lessons too quick as a kid. Constantly had all these things growing up that caused me problems. You heard about the car. Well, it gets way worse than that. Cut my thumb off with a table saw. I burned my hand with hot boiling grease. Man, I sure learned a lot, though. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk through 3 of those stories because I think we often look and we don't always see. Right? What you might see is in blue. What you might think about is in blue. I often get a question about Ranger School, and I kind of chuckle. I'm like, well, you can buy it at the clothing sales, you know, it's just right down the street. But the reality is you don't know the 5 years it took. How many times I got told, no, you're an Air Force Security Forces member, you don't need to go to that. 5 years of battling. Bureaucracy, so to speak. Fighting, tooth and nail. And one of the pictures on the front page, and Tech Sergeant Nancy Fraser is the only reason I even got to that school from Travis Air Force Base in 1999. He saw something in me. See, at the time, I didn't have much value in myself. I didn't really see anything great in me. My mom and dad taught me to work hard. They worked their entire life. I'm not sure what we had because there were several nights I'd ask my mom why she's not eating dinner. It's because we didn't have enough food. And I know this is probably going a little deeper than you wanted to know, but man, we all got a story. And it can get crazy, right? So what you might not know is the things up there that I see. I got some beautiful memories. If you look at the picture in the middle, that's me and my sister. I have 2 younger sisters. Right before that picture, our house had burned down. That's like one of the only pictures left. And we lived in a trailer, so it went pretty quick. But man, look at that family. How crazy is that? Beautiful wife, 5 kids, all girls. That's right, you think about that for a second. Oh my God, they're so mean too. They used to just draw on my head. I was like, what are they doing? Dad, hold still. Come back, I got, full head of hair, but it's all marker. I definitely guinea pig. Dad, I got some new makeup. I'm going to try it on you. I was like, you put makeup on me? I was like, don't tell anybody. It's classified. Y'all are sworn in now. A lot of crazy stuff, though, right? Like, as you think about your life and where you've been and the things that you do. And so I this is a little bit, I wanted to share 3 that I think you might appreciate. When I was 5 years old, I was standing exactly where this photo was taken as a young kid hanging out with my friends. This story was so important, I wrote a college paper about it, and I sent it to the general preemptive to our interview. That's how important this story is to me and really makes up who I am. And when I looked at it later, it is probably the reason I ended up a defender, even though it took me 3 trips to the MEPS, lost my job as a boom operator, and picked a job as security forces long, and ended up as a cop. Crazy, right? So as the story goes, we're standing there, it's a few of us, and this is in 1979. Yeah, sorry, I'm old. But we're looking, right? We're talking, we're having a good time. I'm about a block away from our house, and if you look straight at the flagpole, about 6 feet, 10 feet off to one side, there's a newspaper machine. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? It's got newspapers in it. You take them out, put your quarter in, you get your paper. Well, the man shows up to take that stuff. He grabs it all out, and for whatever reason, at 5 years old, I am locked on to him. Locked on. Paying attention. And I was enamored with what he was doing. He's pulling these things out. I'm like, what is he doing? This is crazy to me. I'm 5 years old. Long blonde hair. You saw the hair, right? I couldn't hardly see through all the bangs. I had hair, believe it. And I kept watching him. And as I watched him, something fell from what he was doing, and I was like, oh gosh, what's that? So I waited. He kind of packed everything up, and he put it in his thing. He put in the new newspapers, put the thing back together, and he took off. As soon as he took off, I ran over there as fast as I could. Looked on the ground because I saw something fall. I picked it up. It was a quarter. Man, in 1979, you could buy a car with a quarter. Yeah. I was so excited. I ran all the way home as fast as I could. Oh, my God, I'm telling my mom and dad, because in the town I grew up, you saw 400 people. There's no streetlights, but we did have a small little general store, and you could get like 80,000 pieces of candy for a quarter. You see, I get excited. What? I get all the way home. I tell my dad, Dad, guess what? I was watching this man. He was doing all this stuff, and he took this quarter out. It fell on the ground, and I went over there. I waited for him to leave, and as soon as he left, I ran over there, picked it up. I came home. Can you take me to the store? What do you think he said? Snatched me up by the arm, drugged me back to the post office, multiple spankings and screaming the entire way, walking the entire way so the whole neighborhood could see it, made me put the quarter back in the machine and said, don't ever do that again. You better speak up next time. Man, what a valuable lesson. Can't get that by hanging out on your iPhone. It's no miracle that I ended up a defender, man. I think it was by design. Somebody in my life was pushing me this way. I was always defending my sisters from bullies and best friends. I have been in several fights over the years. And man, it all started with a 25-cent thing. Having the courage to communicate. Step in when people need you to. Being able to say, hey, stop that. Sir or ma'am, you dropped that. Sometimes I wonder if we still got that capability today. I don't know. Clearly do the right thing. Even if you don't know, you kind of know. Like I knew as a 5-year-old, I probably should have grabbed that quarter and put it back in that machine, whether or not I told the guy. But I was so excited about the opportunity. I missed the point to the entire thing. Don't get excited about the wrong thing. Stay focused. Pay attention to your kids. Teach them that lesson. Walking in the house, my daughter walked over a tissue. I said, hey, where are you going? She said, I'm going to the bathroom. I said, not before you don't pick that up. Right? One of the things I heard John Maxwell say, and I really appreciate it, is how you view things is how you do things. I think that's extremely true. When you love your job, your friends, your family, your best coworkers, you get after it with passion and heart. When your leadership comes in the morning and they display that energy and take good care of people, you do it. You get after it because you don't want to let them down. How you view things is how you do things. I might have heard it late in life, but I remembered it from when I was 5 years old. As I went through my life, things didn't get uncomplicated. I told you a few of the stories, and I kind of skipped over most of the details out of fear. Not mine, yours, because I don't want you to look at me differently after you figure out my life is full of chaos. But this man in this picture here is one of my best friends. And in 2006, while deployed to Iraq, we had been on combat patrols repeatedly. So in this organization that I was in, you would go on a combat patrol, and if you weren't on combat patrol, you were on QRF. So that means they'd call you, the quick reaction force, they'd call you if something happens, you got to go back outside the wire. So we got called one night, we went outside the wire, the tower had called in something, so we responded. Said, hey, we saw somebody, we think they're putting an IED in. Okay. We get everybody together, we go out, do our test fire, we roll outside the wire in North Kirkuk. We pull on scene, we're doing our exact TTPs, blocking off the road, doing everything we're supposed to. We get everybody out of the cars that are supposed to be out of the cars, and they're surveying, they're looking, and there's trash everywhere. So it's hard to discern what's what, and you really can't tell. But I just look over, and my man Billy, he's standing on a dirt mound on the side of the road. My heart stopped. So instantly I said, hey man, get off that. What are you doing? Get out of there. We kind of closed up that thing, and we got back in the car and we left. The very next day, that exact same thing went off. The mound he was standing on exploded. So they called us and said, hey, we need you to go back out. We had just come off of 16 hours. We need you to go back out. Secure the scene. We're going to bring EOD and do a sweep and all that kind of stuff. I said, okay. We got the team back up. I didn't know exactly where it was, though, until we got out there. It scared the shit out of me. I put everybody back in the car except for me. Just at that same moment, there was gunfire behind me. The 249 gunner had shot a car. Comes racing up straight at me, screaming, brakes on. I yanked the man out of the car and I almost shot him in the face. And then I stopped and looked at him. He didn't hit me with the car. He didn't have a gun. He was scared to death. He had a white dress shirt on, khaki pants. Put him back in the car and told him to move on. We closed up that part of the event, do an AAR when we come back to the wire. I knew from that point forward we had to do business different. They were starting to figure out what we were doing and how we were doing it. That was no accident that went off right there, and the day before a tower called it in. Years later, well, not even years, a year later, I PCS from that assignment, and my squad, as the squad leader, was given to then Tech Sergeant Billy Setliff, and they go to Buka. Say I was a little bit nervous is the understatement, right? I could protect them. I knew how to speak up. I knew what the right answer was no matter what. But I wasn't there. Who was going to do that? I trained with that squad for 6 months straight before we went to Iraq the first time. What did they do the second time? I don't know. I wasn't there. And then they go on a deployment. Then we get a call. 3 months in, EFP, explosively formed penetrator, hits his vehicle. He comes back from the deployment and thanks me. For what? He said everything that he learned as a fire team leader with me is what saved him that day. What I didn't tell you about that squad is none of them have ever been deployed before. I was the only one on the squad with downrange experience, and I was scared to death for all of them. So bringing them home alive was a key goal. That picture is us a week before I came to Scott. His he's hurting pretty good these days, but still my best friend. He's married. Him and his wife and their daughter are coming to our house for Thanksgiving, and he's a great American. You better believe, I believe we're not ready enough. If you're not walking into your building like doing cornering drills, you're not ready enough. If you're not walking into your building doing practice scenarios and medical training, you're not ready enough. If you're not thinking about what they're thinking about, you're not ready enough. You got to start to answer those what ifs now. Because when it happens, you got to be ready. It's going to be a dynamic and fluid environment that's going to be uncertain. Congratulations, you're in charge, go. And it's not going to be a captain or a colonel, it's going to be a master sergeant or a chief or an airman. Because we're going to be so distributed, causing dilemmas for the enemy that you're going to have to lead. You're going to have to continue to work the problem, and you might have to change a TTP. Getting that air power back in the fight. Being ready to violently execute when you need to. But man, being calm enough to know when to send somebody on because they're just at the wrong place at the wrong time past curfew. That one moment in time changed my life forever. It's funny how things do that. From that point on, my goal has always been to be better on my worst day than they are on their best day. I know inside that I'll fight to the death for you till my bones collapse. That's not a guess. That's not anything more than a promise, but it's a fact to me. Nobody will fight harder for what you want and what you need to be successful. Me, the boss, and the AMC staff team. I've watched them in action. But that's not even the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Believe it or not, it gets crazier. Right after I made chief, I was super excited, man. I'm that nerdy airman that came in as an airman basic, right? And I am excited. When notes come out from the SecAF, I'm like, man, he's talking to me. She's talking to me. I like that. Man, I got my own letter. They signed it and everything. So I read that damn thing and print it out, put it on my desk. For real. I'm that guy. Tech Sergeant Anthony Frazier, the guy who saw something in me, told me I was a lifer. I was like, I'm not a lifer. I'm getting out, man. I'm going to do my 4 and I'm out. Weird how that turned out. But man, one of the worst days in my entire life was I made chief, felt really good. I'd come back off my surgery. I was starting to feel normal again. Really wasn't myself, though. I couldn't put a finger on it, but I wasn't sure what was going on. Really struggled to understand it. I didn't know what to do. Felt like I had support. I do what Rangers do, sua sponte, of my own accord. I'll figure it out. My wife says, why don't you take the girls fishing? I like to fish. Hunt, fish, run outside, play, ride bikes, you name it, man. The kids growing up, I was all about it. Let's go sledding? Okay, let's go. I don't care how tired I am. So she does. She organizes a fishing trip. We take the girls, or I take the girls, and we go fishing in a little pond in Germany. It's like $5 a kid. They're excited because they know what this means, not just to them, but also to me. It's a good day. But for some reason, it wasn't a good day. Like they're catching fish left and right, and you can't see it. There's a hidden slide. There's a picture of them with all their fish. It's crazy. There's like 16 trout that I had to pay for, by the way. I was like, oh, man, y'all caught too many. But at 11 o'clock that day, I'm walking around. I never even got to fish. I was just baiting hooks and helping them throw stuff back out constantly, like boom, boom. They were reeling them in like crazy. At 11 o'clock, and I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what it was. I couldn't figure it out. I'm not the most deployed airman in this room, in the Air Force at all. I'm not claiming I got PTSD, but man, I didn't feel so good. That girl right there, that little girl was 7 years old in that picture. What you can't see is the chief stripes behind it. I just got promoted. She comes up to me and she says, Dad, what kind of thank you can I give you that will make you happy today? Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. I was like, what is wrong with me? We finished our fishing trip. I immediately went home, walked into our house in Germany, and I asked my wife, I said, can you come down to the garage? She said, what's the matter? You guys didn't have fun? I said, no, we had fun. I just need to talk to you right now. I pulled her in the garage because, you know, that's what parents do to separate themselves from the kids, right? I'd go to the garage, and when you got 5, yeah, that's right, they're everywhere. And it's a good thing. They love us. They're everywhere. And I said, I need help. I'm not doing so good. She said, what do you mean? You seem like you're all right. I said, I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. Now, I didn't expect her to be a psychologist and come up with some grand scheme to fix me. Our spouses are not required to do that. But she did support me when I said, I got to figure it out. I got to find help, man. So I started going to B-Hop. They did every blood test known to man. Had figured out my vitamin D was basically non-existent. I was struggling personally because I had had surgery and I kind of had lost a part of myself that I wasn't ready to recognize yet. Probably one of the toughest moments in my life is when she said, what kind of thank you can I give you that will make you happy today? After a couple months of getting some help and seeing what was going on, I finally pulled all my family together, breaking down in tears, and I said, I need help, but I wanted to say I'm sorry to you. And they looked at me, they said, Dad, what are you sorry about? Apparently you get really good at hiding stuff. But we can't do that. You got to have that courage to communicate, man. It's funny how 25 cents goes so far. You got to be strong enough to ask for help. You got to be strong enough to take the help, even if you don't recognize that you need it, and somebody else does. Listen. Pay attention. Don't walk by airmen and go, hey, how you doing, and keep going. Stop and get the answer. You might change that person's life. My wife and kids, if it wasn't for them, I don't know where I'd be or what I'd be doing. But man, I sure love them. She's a freaking amazing hero, my wife. I don't know how she does it all. She's kind of a saint because my life's far from perfect. I think I've mentioned I might be a product of failure. I failed at everything. I just didn't take no for an answer. Take a look at your past, but don't get lost in it. Remember, that doesn't define who you are. One of the greatest things I heard recently in the past year was from Chief Toberman. He said, you know, the military is a great place to start over. I love that because that made sense for me because up until 20 years old, I was a mess. I was all thrust, no vector. You know what that means? That was crazy. Partying all the time, tried college, that didn't work out. Tried working odd jobs, that didn't work out. I needed something. I needed you. And I found you. Best thing that could ever happen. Over my time in the military, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of different things. And, you know, everybody's got a creed or something you got to memorize. And I was on a run one day. I was not doing so good. I was having a lot of neck pain. It took me about 2 years to recognize that because I had my spine fused last year. I got some titanium now. My kids think I'm steel, but I have titanium now, so I'm like upgraded. Yeah. And I was out on a run. I was just kind of getting my feet back under me after some other stuff. And I came up with something. On my phone, while running, I wrote this. I'm not going to insinuate we need a new thing, and there's no more creed that I'm trying to push on you, but I do think maybe you need your own individual thing that you think about. What can you live up to? What are the things that you think about? When you take all those creeds and intrinsic values that you put together and we merge them into who you are, what does that say to you? This is what it said to me. I don't want to stay on the slide too long. If you want to take a picture of it, you absolutely can. But this is something that I think about. My ethos. Like I said, I love what we're about. We have a problem in the Air Force. We don't know how to lose. We're really good at getting things done, innovating, adapting. We're really good at taking people along and making sure they're taken care of. We're really good at a lot of amazing things. We got to keep that going. I think throughout my life, my mom instilled in me the warfighter mindset. My mom was about 5'3", 105 pounds. By far the toughest and smartest woman I had met up until I met my wife. She was a damn warrior. She had stage 4 lung cancer, died January 5th, 2009, and she fought all the way for 2.5 years. I made it back just in time to see her pass away at a hospital. Crushed my soul. And when I was thinking about her, I thought about this slide. Things in my life weren't always that great. They were always kind of uncertain, where we were going, what we were doing, what money was going to be available to buy food. I don't think I grew up poor, but we didn't have a lot. I tell my kids that I didn't have toys, and it's a real story. The things that I had were made by hand by my mother and my grandmother. My dad made me a toy box by hand. That's what I had. We've got to have airmen that can thrive in the uncertain environment that's in front of us today. We're going to have NCOs, senior NCOs, and airmen that are going to do things we haven't even thought of yet. That uncertainty is what's going to make us powerful. That uncertainty is going to be your secret weapon, because you're going to continue to work the problem. You're going to lean in. You're not going to walk over the paper. You're going to pick it up because you have a bias for action. If an airman needs help, you're going to step in. You've got to be brilliant at the basics. Those fundamentals, the things that you know when you do your job every day and you're out there on the line that you have passion for, keep getting better. Don't stop. How can we do this better, faster, safer, smarter? If there's a widget, why don't we have it? Decisions. Don't get too comfortable. You're going to have to start making decisions that make you uncomfortable. The things in life that are convenient, you might have to let some of those go. Instead of sitting in the morning with a cup of coffee for an hour, you might have to get up and do a run. Go into the squadron, do PT with your airmen. Hug your family, eat breakfast, braid some hair. Get out of your comfort zone and start thinking through the things that we need to do. I think you'll soon see in the near future, we talk a lot about the greats that came before us and the shoulders that we stand on. I have no doubt that's true. But your kids are going to be standing on yours. What's the legacy of valor you're going to leave behind? What's the revelation that you're going to think about and create and go do to make sure that the freedom that you know today as the biggest and baddest Air Force in the entire world stays that way? When you wake up in the morning, you should say, what am I going to do today to make us better? What am I going to do today to show my family I love them? Are you going to take your boots off and sit on the couch and fall asleep? Or are you going to get up and help make dinner? The warrior troll. That's what I am. I'm often bothered. But there's 3 things I need you to think about. Pride. You're in the best Air Force in the world. When you walk in from the parking lot, don't walk kicking rocks. Stand up, be proud. We need you to lead the way. Don't forget that. That presentation of your uniform and the things that you think about. Pick up that trash around your squadron, cut that grass, and don't wait to be asked. Just get after it. That's leadership. Every day, come in and try to do something 1% better. In any room I'm in and any day, for the last 10 or 12 years, I'm definitely not the smartest person. But man, I pay close attention. I'm like, okay, I need to know more in that area, so I'll get smart in there. If I don't know it, I'll go ask somebody. And you do that so good and so well, it becomes a routine, and you do it so much, it creates irreversible momentum that you'll never be able to stop because it's too powerful. And the only game we'll be playing after that is the infinite game, because the competition won't be there, because we'll be the ones in charge, running things, making sure freedom is safe and free, and all of our kids will still have a place to call home, and land to buy, and McDonald's to eat. I love these pictures, man. I was looking for stuff for AMC, and I just kept seeing these pictures, and it just kept reminding me of what the boss said with unrepentant lethality. That's you. The way you do your job, the way you take care of your family, the way we think through problems. I have been witness to some of the most amazing things in the job since I've been here. We're going to probably roll into a video here in a second, and then I'll start to close it up. I just want to say thank you. Appreciate you. Let's see what